Doodlebud. Today we're checking out this pen. This is the Platinum Curidas. Now, the reason I have this pen on my desk is these pens further back in the desk, these are some other capless pens. I started a capless pen nib dry out test. Many people requested a Platinum Curidas be added into the mix. So we're going to do that. That'll be a separate video. I'm going to redo the test. I have some great ideas. But I got to shoot the review of this pen first to see what this thing is all about. This was kindly supplied to me by Used over at Apple Boom. I reached out, told him about the video. He watched it. He said, let me send you a Curidas. A lot of people want that. So big thanks to him. Go out to him to sending me this pen. Check out their site. We'll have all sorts of details. Going to get the review going. I'll compare it also as bonus to this version. This is the cheap Chinese version. And I'll show you how cheap it is. But we'll get to that in a minute. First off, let's talk about the legit pen, the Curidas. If you like to know what type of box it came in, well, this is the type of box. It's a slidey box, then an open box, and then there's some stuff inside the box. This was on the clip, tells you about the pen. Some folks save these because they are high-value items. There's a little manual, talks to you about the pen, how it works, fill it, all that type of good stuff. And then there is the Platinum warranty information, standard little pen bed with the little strap here. Seen that a million times. There you go. Move that out of the way, bring in the pen. So obviously this one's red and there are other colors. One of the other colors is a blue similar to this cheap one, but I'm actually curious how close they get their knockoff colors either way. Interesting design. It is a little bit reminiscent of the original Pilot vanishing point style with the clicker and a little door that reveals the nib and a clip. So Platinum, stuck with that design, but did their own iteration of it. Totally different mechanism and all sorts of stuff. There is a little trap door. It's kind of cool because this one's, semi-translucent with the red. So you can see it open. It sort of looks like a fish. Have a look down here. This was the eye, and then that's the mouth. Opens up sort of like a fish. Too much glare we're getting, but sorry, that's the eye up there. And that's the fish mouth opening, and it spits out a little nib. So a small little nib. This one, obviously, as you can see, is fine point. Clip is on here now. Apparently, there is a tool that you can have to remove this. I didn't see a tool in mine, but maybe without the tool, you can use your fingernail. I heard a little snap. I just don't want to break stuff, but someone was asking about this. Yeah, I bet you have to open both at the same time. Oh boy, yeah. I think there's a little tool anyways, or I could finicky with this a little bit more. Maybe at the end I'll try to do this off camera, but I think you can remove the clip. So if this is in the way, you can get rid of that. Big clicker, like that's one thing it just seems a little bit off in proportions. But here's the vanishing point, and here's this one, just a large clicker on there, but that's okay. The filling system is interesting. You unscrew like a lot of pens, but it's a whole assembly that you pop out. So you can see it's in here. You get to see the spring and bits a little bit more versus if you compare that to the vanishing point, it's a little more subtle. You don't see the spring. The spring's further down there. You get to see a little more of kind of the behind the scenes action, so to speak. It's got a little key in there, a little tab. So you go and rotate it, and then the whole nib unit and everything pops out. And then you have your converter or cartridge, whatever you're using. I don't want to pull it out. I don't get ink all over my fingers, so you get the idea. But yeah, so it takes cartridges or converters, Platinum branded ones, their own stuff. So you gotta stick with that. You can't take international ones or whatever. Slips in and away you go. The build quality on this is so much better than the cheap one over here in the background. I believe I featured this in a popular video called Trash Pens. So you can see it looks very similar. I had to sand and smooth things just to get this action to work. It was just horrendous. It still is not so great, but at least it's way better than what it was when I got out of the box. Build quality on this one is horrendous. I can feel instantly just better quality there. But this one, the reason I have the pen, this is something I think is quite epic, is the ink burger this thing grows. I've never seen one so big and gnarly. I mean, this deserves a close-up. Look at this thing. I refuse to clean the pen. It's got ink residue still in there. It's a terrible pen. It dries up so fast. But that thing is just so epic. The rest of its life, this is how the pen will serve it. Just with a giant, gnarly ink booger on there. You can barely see the tipping poking through. This thing is so overgrown. Let's get back to the real deal. I'll show you some of the details. It is an interesting design. So there's this little kind of bump out here, and there's a slide mechanism, the little lever, and so that's just to give room for the lever. So they couldn't even contain that mechanism within the constraints of this barrel. That's where the Pilot won. It is super, super clever how they did that. But I'll get in and show you all the little details on that as well. You know, for some, just comfort-wise, depends where you hold the pen. If you hold right down here and your finger crosses over there, you're not going to like that whatsoever. I hold further back. Doesn't bother me. The clip doesn't bother me. But again, depending on how you hold it, just like with a regular vanishing point, depending how you grip, for some people this clip is just so annoying. It just ruins the pen for them. So same thing for here, depending how you hold it, either the clip or this bump out will get in the way. I do like the overall size of it. I still think proportion-wise this is too long. If it was a bit shorter, it would look, I don't know, just aesthetically a little bit more balanced. But it's got some nice thickness to it, thicker than the Pilot. I'll give you dimensions later on here in a moment. And, you know, good size pen, nice and light. So comfort-wise, I actually don't mind it, but I could see this not being it for, you know, for everybody. Let's get you on the inside and show you some of these details. What's neat is the clicker mechanism here in the back. Let me just push this piece out here so I can show you how it works. There's just tiny, subtle little details. So when you click the pen, obviously the whole nib unit travels vertically, right? Just up and down. But there's actually a rotational motion that goes in here in order to make it work. So if we look up close here, we got this little, if we get the focus right, that red feature that sort of looks like a picket fence, right? So we got those little teeth up and down, up and down, up and down. And then we have this. So the whole pen, the whole mechanism is essentially just ramps and wedges. So you can notice how this here is cut at a little bit of an angle. So what we're going to do is this part rotates and this is going to travel along. So that's how the clicking is going to work. Let me slide this back into the body so you can see it in action. This little red part of the clicker, as you can see, it has a few little tabs all the way around here. And those tabs will run down these slots on the body, but they're all the same at the top, but they're different at the bottom. Let's see if the focus will be cooperating. Okay, there we go. So you can see some of those slots, like this one here. There we go. This one here slides all the way out. So what's going to happen? That tab's going to come all the way out and stick out the pen. That little ramp and wedge will progress it one notch, but there's a dead end. You can see on this one right there, there's a stopper. So it's only going to retract back a little bit. So that keeps it out. And then when you click it again, it's going to rotate and go into this next slot and slide way back up into the pen. But it's actually, it's a clever little design. It's very simple, just ramps and wedges. Nothing elaborate, nothing crazy, and it just works. And wouldn't you know it, I wasn't paying attention because I'm watching through the camera and trying to talk at the same time. I put the spring in wrong. Now I kinked it, but I'm going to steal the copycat spring to see if I can finish this review. The spring is not the same. It's a flimsier spring, so it doesn't provide as sufficient force, and it doesn't fit in here quite as well. That is for sure. So it still does work, and I almost knocked over the phone there. And the clicking is, it goes and retracts, but now because the spring is different, it doesn't move this whole inner piece all the way back. I got to go in and sort of push it back for it to properly close and seal. So that is unfortunate. And all of that was to just show you how the clicker works. So I might as well finish that off here. So you can see there's that tab. It's going to go down this groove, and then that little ramp and wedge action, it clicks over. Can't go back up because this doesn't allow it to the whole way. It's a shallower groove. Click it again, clicks over, and comes all the way back. So pen with converter installed and ink, 28.4 grams. Dimensions, we have about 143 millimeters like so, and the body's 13.5 millimeters in diameter. That's really about it when it comes to dimensions. Quick size comparison, we have the Ensso Bolt Pilot Vanishing Point, the Platinum Curidas, Lamy Dialogue 3, and just a Lamy All-Star. I have already inked the pen. It has Diamine Sapphire Blue in it, which is the same ink the other capless pens have. What you do is you just simply unscrew, remove the whole nib unit, put it into your bottle, turn the converter, and now you have ink. I'm just using this little pad of Lamy paper that I have on hand, so let's get writing. Just a real quick little writing sample, but I'm happy to report I was pleasantly surprised the very first time I inked up the pen and wrote with it. I've been using it since I got the pen, so it's about a week and a half now. Haven't had any issues as far as nib performance. It's nice and smooth. Ink flow is great. I have had a few issues with hard starting already. So it sort of seems if you leave it for about 3 or 4 days, I'll extend the nib, go to write, and it just misses a little bit for the first few bits. It gets going, writes lovely after that. So I am, when we're going to stack it up against these other pens, I kind of already have a feeling how this one will do. It's the same size as these other nibs. Some are extra fine, but most are all fine. So it is interesting. It's drying up fairly quick. You can see all the green ink in messing around with my other pens. I knocked off the Epic ink booger and it got all over me. It's maybe payback for me trash talking this so bad. Karma came back and inked me. But writing experience was great. I could see if you use this as an everyday carry and you're using this constantly, that little bit of nib dry, it won't be an issue. But there's probably other folks that have one and it lasts much, much longer. They haven't had issues. But with this ink that I have in here, again, there are other inks you can get that would maybe perform a little bit better, but I have the same inks in all these pens and they are lasting longer than that. So I'm a little surprised it's not super, super quick. I'm going to enter this into the test, but it is going to be interesting now that the spring is messed up. You could see that little fish mouth sort of design is now being left open. The spring just isn't quite right to do it. I have to manually close the pen now. The whole point of this was to get it so I could do the test properly. So we're gonna have to see how that goes. There is a little silicone style seal that goes around the end piece there. The contrast, I don't know if it's gonna be nice enough to us to be able to see it. I'm just adjusting the exposure. That's a little bit better. But yeah, there's a little just silicone or rubber type feature that's on there that helps with the sealing of the door. There doesn't seem to be a ton of force on that door pushing into that seal. So I think that's sort of the culprit as to why I'm having at least a little bit of a nib dry out issue. But that's where we'll leave it. I'd love to hear from folks who have a Curidas, how it's been performing for you. Overall, yeah, like I have no gripes about how well the nib writes. For me, it's really comfortable in the hand. I just find the aesthetics, they don't super do it for me. I do like the plastic, like the right transparency of it. It's a nice red, like a ruby type red. I think the pen looks really cool. I do feel this just looks out of proportion, just excessively long on the clicker. But it has been performing very well. I want to leave a big thank you to Youst over at Appleboom for providing me this pen to review and then also to enter it in the nib dry out test. I'm gonna have to test this a little bit more now that I've screwed it up or play with the spring. Maybe I'll get a replacement spring. I can't believe I did that. That's what happens sometimes. We'll leave it there. Hit the subscribe if you haven't. Thumbs up, comments, and we'll catch you next time.